Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Our guest this morning, Barbara Blumer, with her new book, People Wall 76. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited about this. We had a nice conversation about the book. Anybody from Corning who's probably had to pay a parking ticket or something like that has, of course, seen the photos on the wall over at City Hall. So tell us, where did you get the idea to look back at the people that were photographed all the way back in 1976?
Well, I was serving on the Public Art Committee. I was appointed, I think, in January 2019, just before COVID. Isn't that the year we had COVID started?
Yeah.
Well, it was one of the focus areas that, because City Hall has 3 works of art, and the People Wall is one of them, and it's considered a public work of art in a public building. So I was serving on that committee and started doing some research to help out the group. And it turns out I got hooked on it, and I started delving into it because I've always been curious. A lot of people are curious. There's no signage. There never has been in any of the buildings, so you don't really know when you go in there who's who. And you wonder, who are these people? Why are they dressed in 1970s vintage clothing?
Right.
You know? So, and people ask about things like, you know, when you're in the skating rink, people used to look up at it when they were kids.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if you did that or not. People go by in walks, and it's just an interesting, I think it's a curiosity, and it's also a very unique work of art. And from an art perspective, as a mural that was commissioned for a public space, it's rather special. And the artist that was used to do the photography, Elliot Irwood, is quite in that category of black and white kind of photography, is very well known. So as a work of art, as a local person, a whole bunch of reasons I got involved.
Imagine if you were from out of town. You must really wonder what that is.
Yeah.
You know?
And especially, like, think about a tourist from another part of the world that has no idea, like, and what our culture is like.
Right.
So the idea is to provide kind of a guide. I say the book is kind of a guide to the People Wall.
That's interesting. So how long did it take you to write the book and research? Because there's a lot of research that must have went into this.
Yes. And there are a lot of people, and a lot of people helped. Over 400 people helped create and collaborated with me on the book. And the pages and pages in the back listing the people are in the book. But your question was about what?
How long, just in general, how long did it take?
3 years.
Yeah. So this is kind of like the perfect COVID hobby.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people I have still not met because I did all the interviews over the phone or email, or it was a really good COVID project. And it also, I don't know how I would have coped.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, did you find that when people heard that you were writing the book that they wanted to reach out, or did you have to do most of the heavy lifting?
I would say that it was very much the whole project is like, think of like a puzzle, and you're working a piece and then you get another piece. So it's a grassroots kind of feel to it. So like maybe I met with Ellie Nasser, and and her daughter told me some people, and they gave me phone numbers, and I would go find that person. So it was building a whole lot of information, and I had some that I didn't find until last year, or maybe even earlier this year. It took a long time.
And I'm going to actually put a couple pictures up on the screen. I'm going to, just so you can see. There's the book itself, and then we've got that's the front cover, and then and then you mentioned
the Nasser.
Yeah, isn't that a great picture?
Yes.
And I talked to Mary Ellen, her daughter, and she helped out a lot then, right?
Yes, Mary Ellen.
Yeah, both.
Both of Ellie and Mary Ellen were like, it was August, maybe the first time I could go to see her. We wore masks and visited with Ellie in her home, and because she was there. She went to the photo shoot.
Sure.
She remembers walking over there. Going in the snow, and but also they just know lots of people.
Oh, of course. And that's what I thought was so interesting in the book, because it is 1976, and that's a little ahead of my time. But looking through it, there's so many people I recognized or knew as part of Corning's history.
Yeah.
Isn't that neat? Did they keep good records?
No.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I had to seek that when you asked how did I figure out a lot of it, like. One woman that used to work with the Corning Foundation told me they had some information in their archives, so I contacted them. Excuse me. Sure. And during COVID, Dawn Marie Castellana went into their files and got a lot of information for me, and so it was very very poor records. They had what they call silhouettes. They're just little outlines with a name below it.
Okay.
That's all they had after 45 years to really document who's who on the people wall.
Did because you mentioned there's no signage there.
Yeah.
Was there a reason behind that? Did you ever find out why they never really told you what it was?
Well, I think the idea behind the whole concept behind the mural is that the building is to look like it's filled with its people because it belongs to its people.
Oh, okay.
So it was about a portrait of the citizens and not so much about the individuals as it was a community project. It wasn't a plaque about this person did something special for the city. It was the whole idea was from mailman to, and they did call the person a mailman back in 1976 versus mail carrier. From a mailman to scientist, they had a whole range of people. So, and also, not to get in the weeds too much, but the type of technology that was very unique back in 1976 that they used, it had never really been done before.
Yeah.
And it was these really large pieces of think of like wallpaper, and they were able to, they're called scanochromes, and they're like 10 feet
How
tall
futuristic.
by 3 feet wide, and they butted them up against each other all along the wall, and there was not really any place to put signage or
okay.
attach it to that fabric. And
That's interesting.
and I guess the real bottom line is everybody knew everybody back then, so they
Right.
didn't really need signage.
Yeah. But I mean, here we are in 2023, and there's some questions. Now we're going to go through some of the people, just a few from the book that I found really interesting. But before that, how many people were you able to actually contact that had their photos taken?
Well,
Was it more secondhand, or was it the actual people?
I would say it's a mix, but
Okay.
there's 150 people and pets in the mural.
Okay.
And then there was another 150, 250 people total, let's say, that were also photographed because they went out into the community and recruited all these different people, like shoe repair guy. He didn't make it to the wall, but he had his photo taken.
Mm-hmm.
So the point I'm making is that it was, if I couldn't find the primary person or they're no longer alive, then I would work with someone who knew them, worked with them, or like a descendant, a family member. So there's a collaborator for every one of the stories. Chris, and as an example, Dr. McAvoy, he was the president of Corning at the time. His son actually wrote the story, and it's a great story where he goes around, talks about going around town with his father as a child, and he would visit the various stores and what he learned from his father and how he thought his father taught him about how important people in the community are.
And one thing we talked about, which I thought was really important, because you're probably saying, well, there's a lot of people in the community back then that didn't make the cut, but this was for Corning people, Corning residents only.
Well, it was the focus, it was their City Hall.
Sorry, we got sound effects this morning.
I
A lot
know.
of
I do
heavy
think-
equipment going by.
I think there's going to be some good road repair going on here.
Yeah, hopefully. Did you talk to anybody that had their photo taken but didn't make the cut for the town hall?
Yes.
Were they upset?
That would be like Ted Marks,
Oh,
Al Lewis. Let me think of some more. But yeah, there are a lot of people that participated, and especially were in the magazine spread. There were 54 in that magazine spread that I don't know if you remember that part. I showed it.
Yeah.
It was a companion piece that came out in July of around the bicentennial when the People Wall went up. And those people saw their picture in the magazine,
So
but then they didn't
naturally.
make it to the mural. And then there's one of my favorite ones is a guy that's he told me that he's in the basement. He's not even on the People Wall because he was a child when he was going to go to school, and he went over with a bus group and everything, and his photo was taken. But he's in the basement. He's never seen his photo. He never made it to the wall.
That's so funny. Do the photos exist of the people that didn't make the wall?
No.
Oh, really?
We have a few. We found a few through the artist website, but no, the ones that we have are the ones that are on the wall. These are photos of it on the wall and also in the magazine, and then a few others that we have run across online.
Okay. Well, let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acomb, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We're talking about the book, The People Wall, 76. I was so fascinated by this when you brought it in, and so I thought we would go through some people, just a couple, that were in the book, and there's so many in the book. But
and I was tickled to see you go through it because you were really enjoying it.
Oh, I loved
every
it.
page you
I went through every page.
You're like, look at that.
I know this person. It's a lot of fun. I tried to get the background stories as much as I could in that short time. So let's go to this one. Oh, that's the one we already showed. All right, so tell us about the poodle.
Well, the poodle's the one and only subject in the mural that we have not figured out who the owner was.
Okay.
So I really want to find the owner because then I could say it's complete. We have all 150 identified. So we had some leads on Gabby. It's a black poodle. It looks like a standard poodle because you can see relative to the size of the girl. But what we were surprised about when I talked to the mom of Christine, I thought it was their dog, their family dog, and it's not. And she said, no, this was dog. They just put her together in the studio when she was being photographed back in 1976. So we thought for a while that was the Wilson photography dogs.
Sure.
Tracked down that dog was Pierre.
So this is
And then the other dog I saw in old Corning photos that one day they were talking about a black poodle that a woman on the north side carried around in her shopping cart, and I was like, oh, it's going to be Gabby. But it wasn't, because that was a miniature. That was a small dog too. But we have a clue that the dog's name is Gabby.
Okay.
And then my most recent clue came about 2 weeks ago, is the possibility that the Relahans, he was an alderman, Pat Relahan, that his wife groomed poodles.
Oh.
But they don't have any family, and I'm looking for somebody who may have known them, would have known me and lived in their neighborhood and might have known who Gabby is. Or like, one day finding one of the other dogs, you know who Ann Galvin is? She told me that she used to babysit the dachshund because it lived around the corner from her on Wall Street. And I was like, oh, great. And so we got the whole story on that. But, so that's what I meant about it being word of mouth. So maybe your viewers or listeners can help us identify Gabby.
Well, that was the idea. This is a lost dog report on Frankly Speaking. So if anybody has any information, please reach out. You see the number on the bottom of the screen there. So let's go to another photo here.
Okay.
And okay, so I'm assuming this is one you get maybe the most questions about.
Almost the most questions. We have the lobster gets a lot of questions. Is it real? And this one is definitely one.
So tell us about I'm assuming happy couple?
Very happy couple.
At this point?
Yes.
And still today?
Yes.
Okay, good. So did you talk are they still in the area?
No, yes, Cuca Lake and Florida.
Okay.
And I communicated primarily with Steve, and that one was done via emails. And but also my main person that helped me with this passed away recently. But do you know the name Frank Acomb? He was the Tasty Bakery guy.
Yeah.
And he and I would talk on the phone, and he knows Steve Nesbitt's father. He's best friends with him, and so he told me that a lot about this one, about how she's wearing sneakers underneath her dress because she forgot to bring the shoes, and that this isn't their real wedding dress outfits. That this is they actually took place before their wedding. Their wedding was so the photo shoot was in March of 1976, and their wedding was in June. So they were kind of play acting in these outfits that they dressed them up. And I think it was either Fran's or one of the other dress shops. That wasn't the name of the bridal shop. It's not coming to me right now. Provided the dress, and the florist brought the flowers, and but another interesting thing is that Bob Gell, who is over in the second panel, he told me that he and his wife were going to first be the bride and groom couple, but they said no because they were getting married in October, and so this couple became, and he is the grandson of the city clerk.
Oh, that's interesting, man.
So that's how he probably found out about it. And then Karen's father or her uncle, she had connections, but she's one of the ones that she lived in Painted Post and went to West, and he went to East. And she was a
Like
nurse.
Romeo and Juliet.
And he was, and he was going to Corning Community College. Aren't they cute?
Yes. And you pointed this out, and this is how
Yeah, you didn't
I'm
notice it.
I'm not observant, but if you look there in the
Center
the
of the bouquet.
Yeah, so that's the dimmer light, right, at the City Hall?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They had to work around what was there, and in the original one back in 1976, it's like like what I call a thermostat.
Oh, okay.
So there's been an electrical outlet there since the beginning.
Isn't that interesting?
Some kind of electric.
So we're going to talk more about the People Wall 76 when we come back. If you have, if you're not from Corning, you may not be aware of what this is. So I would highly recommend going over to City Hall, and you'll see what we're talking about.
Yeah. Go to City Hall, or we'll share the website later, and the book's great, whatever.
Yeah. So let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acomb, and we are talking about the People Wall 76, the brand new book. People should know, though, that they want to order ahead of time, right?
Yes. Please pre-order by November the 2nd, so we know how many to print for pickup around Thanksgiving, the week before Thanksgiving. And then the ones for out of town will be shipped out the week after Thanksgiving. It's the Corning Paint and Post Historical Society that's managing the whole ordering process, because it's really their fundraiser. It's for them, and I've donated my time and my work for the book. I'm not making any money on it. Okay. They're handling the whole thing. Well,
and I'm going to put up on the screen after we show a few more people, I'm going to put up where people can order. You can scan that code, or there's a phone number on there as well. But let's go through some more people, because this is a fun part for everybody, I think. Yeah. So the next one up, there's two reasons I bring this up. This is what it looked like before restoration.
Yes. So that's what it looked like when they took them down in 2002. Okay. And if you look closely, you'll see like some of the scratching, and on some of the other panels there was actually some actual graffiti. Oh, really? But that was they were up for 25 years, and they were this new technology that wasn't really designed to be up for 25 years. So they were getting a little raggedy, faded by UV light. You were allowed to smoke in the building back in the day.
That funny? And so all things considered, it's not too bad.
Well, yeah, but you're going to see it looks so much better.
Ready?
Digital.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Now, I brought this up because obviously we have a lot of people that watch this program that are into the media, especially local media, and everybody remembers the name Dean Slack. And this is just, for me, the media aspect of the book.
Yeah.
Isn't that neat? Yeah. So you have WCBA, which was, a go-to. Same with WCLI, which later became WENI. But it just blast from the past. And I was looking at that photo, and who knows? I don't think that's a mic they would have used.
We were talking about that the other day. So you think that's a prop?
I think it is. So that's where I wanted to ask next. Where did the props come from? Was that something the photographer provided? Were they asked to bring them in, the guests? Or?
Well, in the letter that was sent by Mayor Nasser out to invite everybody to come, they were asked to dress in everyday clothes and bring tools of their trade.
Okay.
And so in the one with AJ, he has his yellow hair dryer, which actually was a brand new thing back in the day in 1976. And so I don't know for sure about this particular mic. Right. I do know that the artist had some other kinds of props. You can see them in the background of a picture, like the ladder that was used. So I know they brought some in. They have a nice chair that Aileen McKinney is sitting in that was provided for her to sit in, and also to stage some of the looks. And you and I were talking about that parking meter. Right. So I talked to Marcy, and she said she didn't have anything to do with the parking meter, but they were having trouble with parking back then, and so it's probably up there because people came to pay their parking tickets at City Hall, and it was just sort of a humorous aspect of the mural.
Some things never change, but that's my words, not yours. How long did this process go for the photographer? When did they start, I guess, putting out, what was it like in the paper, like come and get your photo taken, or did they hand select people? How did that work?
So there were two groups involved in making the project happen. One from the Corning Foundation, and then from the city. And from the city, it was Mayor Nasser, and then Jim Schaefer, who was the head of Corning Urban Renewal Agency. So they made a list. I found the actual list, and they would put down, like, I want a shoe repair guy, an
Oh.
accountant, and then they looked up, they have a list of names, and they have 2 or 3 names as ideas for who would do that, and then a phone number and contact information. And then Mayor Nasser sent out a letter inviting everybody, and they started sending out the letters sometime in late February, I think, or maybe because the photo shoot took place in March.
Okay.
For over 5 days, the primary
Oh,
photo
wow.
shoot, and then there was a follow-up one for stragglers, that weren't available on those dates. So it was quick. It went from like February, and it was installed in June.
Oh, wow.
And the editing must have been crazy for the Elliot Irwood and his team. He had like 2 or 3 people on his creative team, but I read that they had over 3,000 photos that were taken, and they used from some of the people that participated. They had some Polaroids. They used it's called 4x5 film that they were originally taken on. So. And then they had to go out to California and be printed on on the Scanochrome machine and brought back and then installed. I'm impressed.
That's a
They
quick
did it.
turnaround then.
Yeah. They didn't put up everybody the first time in June. They only did the first floor. They got the first floor installed. And then they took over the next year, from June to sometime the following year to put up the other 2 floors.
That's amazing.
Because there's 3 floors.
Yeah.
People don't realize that it covers not just that first floor. You got to look up and look at the balcony and then look behind it to see all of them from the outside.
So if your photo was taken, you weren't given a copy then?
No.
It seems like that'd be a part of it, right?
Well, think back to 1976.
Yeah.
What are you gonna? It's the film. It's film. It has to be
that's true.
processed. It has to be printed. And I think they had hoped they would do that, but it never really happened. I saw something in the correspondence that said that would be something they would do, and they never got around to it, I don't think.
When you because you've talked to so many people on this, and you talked to people that had their photo taken, did anybody regret the outfit they chose?
I haven't had anybody tell me that.
Okay. Because I think that's what makes it so special, if I'm being honest. When you tracked down the people and you had conversations, I'm assuming that was probably a lengthy process. Because you and I did this last week when we were talking. You get on these tangents, like
Yes.
like I'll say, well, this person knew
It's
this person,
endless.
and then Dennis Sweeney was in here, and then we got talking about radio. So
Yeah, let's talk more about radio.
No.
Why did you love this radio one?
Just because Dean Slack but Dean Slack is a name you still hear. And as someone that was in radio for so long, it's just some of the names that were thrown around, like Jack and Bob, and so to me there was the media, the love of the media is why that one intrigued me so much. So probably there's other ones that were more intriguing to other people, but that's
see,
my
I
business.
think it's like you light up when you talk about that, and what happens is each category. I'm not an expert in each of these categories. You get to the police or that section, and they all know about their category, and they get excited. So it's kind of magical the way that, and you don't have to know the people to kind of enjoy looking at it, or I don't know. It's looking just at their clothes and what they were wearing is kind of fun to do.
Well, that's what I mean, and all the pictures. I mean, almost everyone has something unique and special about it, I think.
Yeah. And this one I did want to bring up, like when you look at that without knowing that they're the radio announcers, because it doesn't have a title in City Hall, you aren't 100% sure, is that a singing group?
That's what I would have thought.
The barbershop, because of the way the mic's positioned. But so anyway, I'm glad that I don't know how far this information will go, but at least we have collected it and we've preserved as much of the history as we could find in the after 45 years. It won't be perfect, but at least it's better than nothing.
Right. And well, I think that's what's special about it, because like you said, growing up here my whole life, I knew nothing about it other than the old photos. So to have now a recorded history of who these people were, I mean, I think that's kind of like a bonus for all these people that took a photo. Now there's stories being told about something that who would have thought all these years later.
And a lot of the family members remember, or they might have been young, they have all stories too, like that they can share. It's endless. And to say, it really is hard to stop yourself when you're talking about it, because it can, there's always something else that's interesting.
And so I have up on the screen, it's the peoplewallhistory.com, and then people can scan that code or call that phone number to order the book by November 2nd.
Yes, November 2nd is the pre-order date, and we would really appreciate that.
And the proceeds you said go to?
The Corning Paint and Post Historical Society, and also they are the Heritage Village of the Southern Finger Lakes over on Pulteney.
Sure.
It's the complex with our oldest Corning buildings, and then the Historical Society is affiliated and associated with them, and they're in the white building next door.
And I know you mentioned it at the very beginning, but just before we go, I'm sure you'd like to not thank everybody, but the people that did help you. How many people were there?
It keeps growing, but in the book, you mean how many people contributed?
Yeah.
Over 400.
Wow. So, wow, that's amazing.
So all different kinds of people have helped. And I had one woman say, because I'm going around taking fun photos with the People Wall book.
Yeah.
And one woman's like, I didn't really do anything. And I said, yes, you did.
Yeah.
Because she helped me find the children I didn't even know who they belonged to at that point. And so everybody has helped. Everybody that can. But I know there's still a lot of people out there that probably didn't get contacted and may feel they have more to contribute. But at this point, I got to call it, when you got to finish it up, wrap it up, get it printed.
Okay, so final question. It's not a tough question. Maybe it is. I didn't tell you I was going to ask this. What has surprised you most about this project?
The feelings, the goodwill that it has.
Yeah.
There are people that call Corning home or have loved living here that I have talked to from all over the country that still, because I had to research calling them up, they just love Corning. And I think it has a tremendous amount of goodwill. And it's not just the physical object on the People Wall, the mural. Mm-hmm. It's this whole idea of community and civic pride that this project has engendered, I guess is the right word.
Has there ever been talks of updating the photos?
Of course, that's a very controversial kind of topic. It would be very hard to decide who would ever replace them, but I think as a work of art and as part of our piece of our history, it's important that it be preserved as it is.
I would agree. That's why I asked it kind of apprehensively, because I wouldn't want someone to say, because it wouldn't be the same, right?
It wouldn't be the same, and also, how would you decide?
Yeah.
And it's, again, it wasn't about this person deserves to be on the People Wall. It was really a project about a portrait of our citizens for the bicentennial, capturing a moment in time, and that's not what we're doing today if we try to replace it.
No, somehow it would end up being controversial.
Absolutely.
I mean, who got picked and who got chosen. So, thanks so much for giving us so much time. I love the book. I hope everybody pre-orders it by November 2nd. It'll be perfect for Christmas.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Anytime. I could talk about this for hours. So, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Stay with us.